on May 15th, or 15th. The agenda is emergency concerns. Bruce?
Yes, sir. I believe the last time that we had a conversation, it was prior to us getting the answer about what happened with the county and whether or not they would be approved. We now know that that has happened, and so it'd be appropriate for council to consider what should the city be doing in light of some of the things that have occurred. Another one that came out of the governor's office, which was kind of a surprise to us all, was that all businesses everywhere can open, even if they weren't in an approved location. So I think that kind of signals that things aren't as bad anymore. So I think we may be seeing some more travel. So anyway, that was kind of the premise for having a meeting for you to take action after we found out what the results were of the county's application.
I thought the governor's direction on businesses opening was for those that had a street side entrance.
Yes, there was. Yes, I'm sorry. It was. I guess I was just thinking that most of ours meet that criteria. So that, but yes, you're correct. There were restrictions on that, and we have a couple of those that had that condition, but most do not.
Okay, I guess this is just for open discussion from the council. Essentially, we have our two resolutions about no visitors in town and hotel restrictions. How we address those, how do we know that the current phase one is moving forward with the businesses that we have, I guess. I had a long conversation with some of the all four of the other mayors of the county and Manzanita about where they're going. Pretty much trying to stick with the county. Everybody's picking their own dates, and nobody's really getting a firm date yet. They're just all kind of rambling around, figuring that the state is going to jump the gun on us again. There are other concerns that are happening that was the dominant part of the conversation. That was very concerning to Seaside, just because of the constituents that they have. But that, hopefully, I don't think it'll affect us at all. Manzanita did think that they might have a concern. They were a little worried that it was all going to shift down to Manzanita for some reason. Don't know why. My suspicion is that our police forces all are on top of it. Right, Jason?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So other than that, my sense is once the businesses, most of them are already, those that can, the sensibility of us having a sign that says the town is closed is, it seems, why would we have that up there if we can't really enforce it, especially since the businesses are open, at least to local residents, they're open, and that includes our region, so those people do pass that sign, and it is kind of just an odd thing to have up. Manzanita has the same sign that we have. They are putting up a new sign. Oh, and it told me what it says. Please welcome to our community and respect our safety, or something like that.
There's thanks for keeping our community safe.
Yeah, thanks for keeping our community safe. That's what they're putting up. That's something similar would be a good go. But again.
Mr. Mayor, I forgot to mention one thing. We sent you a resolution that would rescind the previous actions. That was just in case you wanted to do something today, like with the conversation now. So that is just available to you if you want, but that was why it was sent, in case you chose that option.
I have a couple of questions. if there's
Shoot.
time. One to Rick and one to Jim. Rick, I'm a little confused on the status of the travel ban. How far can people travel? Are they allowed to travel for non-essential services? And, or are they still required to travel only for essential services?
They are, there's no specific distance on the travel ban. For some places in rural areas that are really far out in the country, their essential services may be further than like a 50-miler. But the travel ban is all about only essential service travel. It is still in effect until phase 2.
And it's effective statewide?
Statewide.
Doesn't mean anything necessarily for the coast, because people will travel, whether it's essential or not, but just wondering what the status is.
It's still gonna be in effect until phase 2.
Okay. And then, Jim, do you have any idea, today is the day that retail and restaurants can open. Do you have any idea of how many are going to be able to open right away, or how many are going to be, delaying their opening?
The short answer is no, we don't have that. Right now, we're reaching out to everyone, trying to assess who's opening, who's making changes to their plans, to try and get that answer. So we should have that very shortly, because we want to promote whatever everyone is doing, to everybody in town, and whoever wants to know. We're trying to help them by getting the word out.
So when you
We should
say,
have that answer in a short time.
so when you say you want to help them promote, do you mean promote outside of Cannon Beach?
No, simply promoting what they're doing. If the restaurant's still gonna stay at, takeout service, or they're gonna allow, sit-down dining, we want to be able to let people that ask us those questions, to let them know what they're doing. So it's more of just updating everyone's status, essentially. We're still in the no promotion phase out to anywhere. It's all local. Basically, so Laura can answer all the questions when people call.
No, that's a good.
The county's plan for phase 1 and 2, was keeping in effect the lodging restrictions until phase 2, which they would recommend removing the lodging, restrictions, as I understand it. Didn't really address, well, and also in phase 2, no more limits on non-essential, travel. But people are ignoring it. State ordinance or resolution, there's no travel except for essential services. People ignore it. Our county, approved plan said that, the essential services until phase 2, in which restriction, limits would be removed, and limits on hotels, lodging would be removed, implying that whatever limits are in place now would stay in place. Although it wasn't the county that, well, the county put their lodging restrictions in place, but they didn't put it in place for the cities. So the cities are still independent on making their decision on when and if to remove the restrictions on lodging. I think I'm correct on that. So we have all these little different rules, and some are being, others aren't, and yet didn't seem to be any restrictions, any enforceable restrictions on people traveling to the coast. Put a sign up, I think helped. According to some of the businesses, it helped too much, but now we're in a position where I think businesses have been allowed to open you need to take the signs down. Once the businesses are open, and people are gonna be coming even though they're not supposed to. And my concern is the 3 counties that haven't passed and been qualified for phase 1 service yet. That's where all our population comes from. It's where all the visitors come from. It's the area that has not yet shown that they can handle the, increase in COVID-19 infections. And yet, we're opening our town, our beaches, for the people that can't qualify in their own county, and they come to our county and our towns. I don't know how, we have no way to control that. And if they're gonna be here anyway, I'm back to the question we raised last time, why are we shutting down the hotels if we can't shut down the bigger problem, that is the day trippers? We do have a tentative agreement, I understand, Sam, where mayors and commissioners of the county have agreed to try to coordinate this phase in to phase 1, and yet stories or rumors that Seaside just gonna go ahead and open up all lodging next week. I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't think they've had their commission or their council meeting, but that seems to be some consensus in that area. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But if they open, lodging, the day trippers are all coming, and everybody else wants to come, and Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas can't keep them from coming, then why are we gonna keep our hotels closed? I mean, it's like trying to put out a fire with a garden. You know, it just seems ineffective. I do think we need to come up with a date, so the hotels can, and when I say hotels, I mean all housing facilities, can let their clientele know when they will be open. And for safety reasons, the farther out we push it, the better off we are. For economic reasons, the shorter we make it, the better off businesses are and the town we collect taxes. I think our challenge here is to come up with maybe it's a compromise position, being running counter to what the county and mayors have agreed to. And you heard Sam say they're sort of hemming and hawing around maybe like we are, and the only date I've seen is county is the end of the month. But they also say 21 days after phase 1. So those are 2 different dates already, just with the county. When you hear the hotels say they can't be ready for 7 to 10 days. And so that puts us either right before Memorial Day or right after Memorial Day for them to even be ready and to get the word out that they have customers coming in. So it's a circular argument. We go round and round and round. We're in a much better position now than we were 2 months ago. The county has health services up. We have our businesses have their procedures in place. We have a testing capability now. There's certainly a public awareness. And I've been one that said we should wait as long as we can. But I think it's not going to be that effective, and there's not much we can do about it. So I guess I'd like to see this council come up with a date certain somewhere, not today, but, you know, the 7 to 10 day figure gets kicked around, the end of the month gets kicked around, and then there's, some people think we ought to start on a Monday, so there's a week to phase in. Others say, what difference does it make? But I think the challenge is on us, and Bruce sent a memo to some of us on the council. Circular argument that we go round and round and round. But, if there's any consensus on a start date, I guess I'd like to hear what people have to say about it.
Let me
Go
just
back to
add,
Sam on
add a
that.
couple things. From what I recall, Jay said that Seaside is having a meeting next week to talk about it. And they could say today, but more than likely, they'd say a date down the road. That was his interpretation. He's got a very divided council on this, so, we don't know what they're gonna do, but it's a meeting on the 20th.
Do you know what the vote was like, this past Monday?
42.
Okay.
So, again, what Seaside is doing, we don't know, just so you know, that's when they're gonna make a decision, probably. Rick also just mentioned something to me. The hotels are saying that maybe 10 days from, they need to know 10 days before, want them to open, so that they have a chance to start gearing up, correct?
That's correct.
So that gives us a window of when we say, I don't wanna pick a date, cause somebody's gonna misread that, but, 2 weeks from now, they want the 10 days to say, this is when the actual doors open, compared to when we allow them to say the actual doors are opening. So, there's 2 dates that we need to consider at that point. Again, one more, Manzanita said 2 weeks, and they are opening hotels. Because Tillamook County has a bunch of weird things going on, cause City of Tillamook has already opened. They just up and did it. Some of their unincorporated areas are suing the county because they wanna open. And the county let Tillamook City open somehow, and so they're getting all buggered up down there. That's just information, it's not really affects us, other than the fact that some news broadcaster is gonna say the beach is open. That's my only concern.
It was just increased travel,
Yeah,
which affects us one way or the other. And I think
Right.
this whole, thing, if just from a strictly looking at it from a standpoint of how many visitors are gonna be in our town, that the day trippers, yes, the hotel guests, you put them together, it's of course more. So, I mean, I completely agree with you, Mike. I can't sit here and say that it's fair to let the businesses open and to keep hotels closed. But, this is why I'm so conflicted about keeping the town safe. And you can make an excellent argument that says hotels are much better equipped to keep their location clean and look out for their clientele versus a potential, in small enclosed space where a lot of people are walking in and out and touching a lot of things.
Well, these are already people who have violated the guidelines by traveling, doing non-essential travel.
Yes.
And I'm not sure about how respectful he can be here. And he will, most will,
I don't have any answer for
but
that.
we don't have history of how this is gonna work. I just don't wanna put our hotels at a disadvantage by picking a date certain, and then all the others open, and our hotels, we've told them, no, you can't open. I don't know how to get around that. I also question how much safer to keep our community by keeping some hotels closed and the day trippers are swarming in. The percentage, I'm not sure is that much, but I agree with what you're saying, Brett. They do a better job of policing their clientele, their guests, and with the procedures that Patrick put out the other day.
Mhm.
I feel much safer with the people coming to the hotels than I do people just wandering the beaches and the restaurants in town. The restaurants will do a good job, but they can only do so much. They're not gonna be able to serve everybody if they all come, like Memorial Day weekend. That's a big, big holiday. we can hardly handle it on all seasons. There's gonna be
And let me just
some big
bring up,
overflow.
if we were to say, this is a big if we were to say hotels could open 10 days from now, that would be the 25th, Memorial Day. So essentially, they would start operating on the 26th. So at this point, that 10-day thing really kicks in. Because if we were to say next Monday is the day they want to start, it would be the 28th. So, that would be the kind of thinking I'm thinking about, that last week of May, yeah. But we're being counter to the governor's 21-day concern, but it sounds like everybody else is gonna be counter to that anyhow.
Well, we're not necessarily being counter to governor's 21-day concern, because she didn't close the hotel.
True.
So it's just basically the cities that closed the hotel in the county.
True.
And the
But
county.
it's the travel, I guess it's the travel thing, but since that's the one that seems to be getting squishier and squishier,
Yeah.
I think one of the things that, there's a contradiction in saying no non-essential travel, but businesses can open,
yeah.
and they're not essential businesses.
And I've talked to enough folks that understand that,
Mhm.
because to them, the business is the hardware store next door, and it's not tourism.
Right.
And a lot of people don't seem to understand the
Right.
difference between a tourism business like ours and, you know, the family market in the middle of Amity. So, I don't know.
Well, I think it boils down to the fact that tourism is a huge component of Oregon's business, especially on the coast and seasonally elsewhere. But the way this is played out, it was never intended to be for tourism. It was to be for businesses that are located around where people live. And it's just not been addressed. We've been left out of the entire loop, other than the guidelines that we've been given, and are now trying to make those fit our community's business model. And it's impossible. It doesn't work. So I would be much more in favor of, if in fact that is what the hotels want, and I would exercise caution on the 10 days and just open 10 days from now.
And the other aspect about what Patrick at the last meeting mentioned was the fact that they're thinking about a percentage opening,
Mm-hmm.
not a full 100% opening, but a partial. And they all seem, at least the few that I've talked to, I can't say all of them, seem amenable to that, comfortable with a slower opening. I don't know if that makes a big difference, but if they're willing to try it,
Well, certainly for the larger hotels, it would.
Yeah.
I could see a smaller hotel being able to, you know, open at full capacity right away.
Yeah. Bruce?
I had another thought on this. If we set a particular day, say 10 days from now, that means everybody shows up in all the hotel rooms. Like if there's 800 things, like 1,000 when you include the short-term rentals. So you hold off until that day, then everybody kind of shows up. Because, you know, we might be able to take advantage of the fact that it's going to take some time for everybody to ramp up, that if we were to set a date sooner, then some would start to, that would essentially create a soft opening, because not everybody's coming on the same day. Probably very few would be able to go ahead and meet the date if we were to set a sooner date, but they'll all be filling gradually in, you know, until you get out to the 10th day or you get out to the 21st day. So in terms of really having a soft opening, that's a way, I mean, you can hypothetically talk about how nice it would be. This way, it kind of forces a soft opening. And it also, in my mind, and my thoughts are based on the premise that people are going to come, and people are gonna come that are the day trippers and things, because the hotels won't be open. And so we already have an issue. And so then it's like, well, how much more of an issue does this become, since it's going to occur anyway, as far as opening hotels and things? And then, you know, does it make sense to do it relatively soon, so that they can, they're gonna take time to ramp up, and so they'll fill gradually. Another thought.
Which I think is fine, and it's just whether we can accommodate the compound number of guests that start to come from both spectrums of day trippers versus hotel guests.
Yeah, absolutely, and I guess it's just, you know, my, way of looking at it, that, I think most of the people that come when we have big crowds are coming for the day. And I might be wrong, but the number of people that you can accommodate in the hotels is about the same as our normal population.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like right now, if you go out, there's not a huge problem. So if you were to double that, maybe there would be, you know, some more people on. But if you got, you know, wall-to-wall people, it's not, the hotels can't generate that much traffic. So I think that you're talking about an incremental amount, and, it just seems that I mean, I would prefer more time if it wasn't causing the economic problems, and if other people weren't making decisions for us, like, well, we'll open up the shops and those kind of things, and making decisions on what's, let me see, saying essential travel, but having no teeth in it whatsoever. So other people are making decisions. So, I just think that we've got the biggest part of the load is gonna be here anyway. If you open the hotels, it'll be incremental, but that also allows, restaurants and things like that to try to get to full staff. There was a conversation that I was on, where they were talking about, well, 30%, 50%, and the restaurants are saying, it doesn't make sense for us to open if the hotels aren't full, because that's where our dinner people are coming, that kind of thing. So, if it's gonna happen anyway, I was just thinking, let's get, you know, a softer start, and people here, and, people working. I think if we defer, we're talking days in the difference, and I just don't know if it's that much, time, but it's hurting people, and I don't think it's gonna make a big difference.
Well, I feel like there was an agreement with the cities and the county to open at a certain time. So I'm really uncomfortable just saying we'll open tomorrow. You know, I've got a little concern that Seaside's gonna just decide on Monday they're gonna open right away, without coordinating with the rest of us. But if we picked a date, 10 days, see, we still need a resolution. So we, say Monday, pass a resolution, that 10 days from Monday.
This is Ashley. I put a draft resolution together for us to work off of. So if the council wanted to take action today, we could amend that resolution and vote on it. So it is an option.
Okay, thanks, Ashley. Just blew my argument.
Sorry.
Well, no, you're right, but.
No, but we could adjust it
Yeah.
to what your numbers
So,
are.
if that then gives our sister cities notice that we have a date 10 days out. Still need to agree on that date. If something really goes haywire, there's still, you know, under our emergency declaration, we can still make some adjustments to it. To Bruce's issue, even if we say 10 days from now, it's not gonna fill up on May 25th. It's still gonna be a phase in. So I think with a 10-day notice, it's still gonna be a slower fill up, but it also gives the restaurant owners an opportunity to say, oh my gosh, they're opening in 10 days, or 2 weeks, whatever we pick, and gives them a better opportunity to find their staff in place, get their food supplies, and they're coming in when they need it. But to just, I don't know. I just feel uncomfortable just saying right now, 2 reasons. One is we have tacit agreement with the county and the cities, and the other is our citizens are gonna be irate. So,
I mean, I like what you're saying, I agree with that, because I've been the one talking to some of the other cities about trying to stay with this thing. But I'm really comfortable with what Bruce is saying, the fact that the industry will pad itself and slowly open. I understand that. The only chink in that one is Memorial Day. They are gonna try their damnedest to open by Memorial Day weekend. If we allow them to start early enough, they're gonna fight for that. You know, so it's timing again. Timing is the weird issue. Go ahead, Bruce.
I just want to address something on the, everybody working together, because what's happening is we're seeing, I don't know, maybe chinks in that, because we're all so different. When we're talking about, initially, when the county was talking about, applying for phase 1, and I don't know if this position has changed, but, Astoria was saying, we really don't want to open our hotels until after phase 3. And when we're talking about the beaches, we closed our beach last week, and Seaside was closed, and that caused a huge problem for Gearhart that time. This time, we're open, and I asked the county and, Gearhart and, Warrenton, and Seaside actually, to not close the beach accesses on weekends, because we can't, we got 45 of them. But they did, and so this weekend, we're the only beach open in Clatsop County. And so it's like, people are gonna make decisions based on what's, good for their situation. And so I think it's good that we're all trying to, make it work, trying to talk, but, there's, 3 cities that don't have the same concerns that we have in terms of, the number of people coming, tourists, our reliance on, our employees and everybody relying on those businesses there. They don't have that pressure. So it's going to, I think we're gonna walk in lockstep for a while, but eventually, does it make sense for us to wait to open until phase 3, in order to stay the same as everybody else? I see that, breaking up a little bit, but yet we're all talking and doing our best to stay in sync.
I want to add this stuff that Jeff's also into this discussion, because I think how we do it might be a little different. The distancing and that with the ideas there. Even though we just have the 2 decisions, resolution decisions to make, this part is another aspect that we should keep in mind. Because if the restaurants are able to use some of their parking spaces, or if we close down some of the streets, or the sidewalks are widened somehow, those affect how we, if there's a surge of folks. So.
If I can just address that, because this just came up, and I thought it was a really good idea. It came from Jeff. But the idea is that we're trying to get social distancing, and a lot of the businesses can't really do it because they're smaller. The restaurants are facing challenges, that sort of thing. So does it make sense for, say, 30 days, maybe 3 weeks or something like that, to make accommodations, change the rules, so that if you have off-street parking, that you can use that and turn it into outdoor dining for a period of time? Does it make sense to allow maybe different signage than, what we've had before? We're trying to see, is it even possible to allow businesses that don't have off-street parking to potentially, come out onto the sidewalk and still be able to have enough room? Can we allow people to use courtyards during this time if they have access to one? So it's just ideas to, you know, ways to try to make it better for the folks that are doing it while creating social distancing. So, that's, just so everybody understands, that's what it is that we're talking about, and it would be a short-term, measure, until we could get a handle on things.
I'd like to make one comment, and that is that we received this at 11:37, and our meeting was at noon. I don't feel that this has given us enough time to look at, or for the public to, look at. Maybe some of you here have had the opportunity, but I hadn't.
Yeah, Robin, this came up yesterday as an idea, like at 4, and then we developed it. And so I understand your point, but we got it to you as soon as it was available, and if you don't wanna talk about it today, that's understandable.
Which is like, what, 20 minutes?
What is it, are you talking about the memo?
Yeah, yeah, I am.
The idea is to discuss it, not to make a decision.
Well, 15 minutes it takes to get here,
Um,
and you get this
Yeah.
as a memo. I think it's offensive.
And we talked about these things, at the last meeting, about the idea of closing off Hemlock, certain areas, or widening the parking area. So that's all this is just a written down version of what we talked about.
And these are all things that go totally against the planning in
Understand.
Cannon Beach.
I know, and so,
So-
this is topics for consideration, not for today's resolution, if we even decide we wanna do a resolution today. This is just a draft. And so the idea is, how would these
Well, you
kind
can
of
try and talk
discussions...
me into appreciating this, but I don't,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
And Rob, Rob, I understand that things are happening very quickly, and so we got that to you as soon as it was available. And I could have sent it to you after this meeting, but it was something that is just on the table for discussion, and wanted you to have that information as soon as it was available.
I just look at it as informational only at the moment, so that if we're talking about outdoor, whatever, we know what this.
As long as it's informational.
Oh,
Yeah, this
It is something, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
I was just saying, this isn't a proposal, these are putting down what we had discussed, or even mentioned, I wouldn't say discussed, they were just different ideas tossed out. Jeff tried to capture those and say, well, here's one way to look at it. Obviously, we'd need to have a work session on that and a time set aside to discuss, but there's a lot of ramifications of that. Means that using our emergency declaration to, bypass some of our ordinances that have gone through the full public hearing process. And, which I'm sure we'll do. I took a quick look at it when I sat down here, and that's why I know it, most of these things had been mentioned at previous meetings. But I think it's also a reason not to immediately open the hotels, because it was pointed out earlier, the hotels are one of the larger sources of customers for the restaurants, certainly for the evening, and noon and evening. But if we, and they're gonna be they're not gonna have abilities to handle the added guests that come in. The ideas that Jeff put in his memo would help alleviate some of that overcrowding, queues down the sidewalk, waiting to get a table, that sort of thing. And the restaurants haven't even had a discussion about it yet. So to say, okay, we're gonna let the hotels come in, starting tomorrow, and the crowds are even greater, and certainly the nighttime crowds, because everybody else, the day trippers go home, nighttime crowds are still here, and the restaurants haven't had an opportunity to adjust for that additional dinner crowd. So again, I would to pick a date for the hotels, but make it 10 days from now, or 10 days from together on it, at a minimum. Because it's gonna, 10 days goes by in a blink of an eye.
Oh, yeah.
So, maybe 10 days is too short to help the rest of the businesses get ready, not just the restaurants, but the shops. They've got to change their whole mode of operation. I know where Stacy works. They're not even sure they're gonna open because they don't know if they can really handle, it's a big shop.
Mhm.
They don't know if they can handle the guidelines and the separation with the kind of product they have to offer. So people need that time. And just to throw in the hotel crowds are the ones that kind of wander around later, waiting for a restaurant, doing their late shopping to the beach, while the others have gone home. So again, I just would argue against opening right now. Pick a date. If we made it the day after, it'd give us an opportunity to see what was the town like with just the day trippers on holiday.
The day after Memorial Day is 3 days before they can open in phase two. That's like the second, and the 5th is when, the 21 days is up.
I'd be the 25th, it's a week before
I'm sorry, Mike, for some reason I keep thinking last week, not the last week.
Right.
It's the week before.
It's a week before, okay.
One thing that I'm a little concerned about opening the hotels earlier, is that, and I'm sure many of our hotel owners wouldn't do this, but there may be a temptation to kind of give short shrift to the protections that they have set up. Or they may not do it quite as carefully, or they may not have the supplies to do it. So I want to make sure that they have plenty of time to put as many protections in place as they can.
And if it's the hotels that said, 10 days,
I'd take them at their word.
so, you know, and I think they know they need to get their signs, they may have done a lot of it already, got the supplies in. They still need to do staff training, the staff isn't even there yet. They've got to bring the staff in, have time to do the training, go through it, how to do the,
I'd be more worried about the beginning of July when they all start running out of stuff, and whether we can still maintain that kind of effort. It's more my concern.
So Mike, you're talking about possibly the 27th?
28th would be,
28th?
Monday would be
Yeah.
28th.
Yeah.
Monday is the 20th.
Monday is the 25th,
Yeah.
Memorial Day,
And
Monday.
that'd be like 10 days from today.
I like that as a time that would be specific for people to know when they could open.
Okay, we've got 15 minutes before we need to shift gears. Where we're talking about right now, I'm not saying this is a proposal, I'm just saying, do you want to head towards a resolution today, both for the, visitor closure resolution and modifying it to fit, hotels, like Ashley has said we could? Or do we want to just do one at a time?
Sam, I just was, what I wanted to bring up before Mike spoke was, to reiterate what, actually it was Mike that brought up, the last time we met about possibly reorienting the traffic flow on Hemlock and, Spruce in order to, try to produce some way to accommodate social distancing. And I think that's something that I'd like, if not right this minute, to, whether we have another special meeting or not.
Yeah, it's kind of what I was getting from Mike, was that if we were to decide that today would be the beginning of the 10 days, that gives us 10 days or more. We don't have to do it at the same time, but it would give us a good 10 days to figure something out with this information and what you're saying.
Well, I would like to try and get something in place sooner than that, because my fear is that it really needs to be in place for the shops.
Oh, yeah.
And I've talked to one of the shops that's real concerned about closing it down because they wouldn't have the parking available for them. And they're concerned about people who
Exactly.
are handicapped.
Yeah,
and we've already had an issue with ADA in the past. I think we should respect that.
That's part of the
agree with what
discussion.
you're saying, Robin. I'm trying to look at a greater good issue,
Yeah.
is what I'm getting at.
Well, the other thing is, it's part of the discussion, because there's a whole mess of different ways we can close things down. I mean,
Massive.
to readjust the traffic pattern.
Uh-huh.
It's not just one or two. I could think of about at least a half dozen, if not a dozen, different ways to create social distancing within the downtown area, by adjusting traffic. So those are what we need to talk about, all those different possible arrangements. And we can ask Jason to come up with vehicle rearrangements and Jeff to come up with how the, parking could be, you know, there's all kinds of ways to do that. I don't wanna line them out right now, and that's not the decision we're trying to make today. Feels like tonight, doesn't it? But I think if we have some time, 10 days gives us some time. I like the idea of doing it quicker than, because it gives us a chance to line things out and figure out what we're doing. But, so,
Looks like we're gonna have another meeting. No, I think those are important
Think of
things,
that.
and
Colleen?
You know, Ashley had made a change to your emergency management ordinance. It's been posted since Monday. That's something she said wasn't an emergency to do, just, but if you're looking at things you've gotta kinda line up and do, and if you're having a meeting, might as well do that too. That would be available to be voted on next Monday, if that helps.
sure, another meeting.
Is Nancy
We're getting
there?
rummy. Yeah?
What's that?
I joked last week with Nancy that I would see her next Friday, and here we are.
Can't quite see you though, Ashley.
Yep, I'm not a big part of today's meeting.
Okay, so, 10 minutes, what do you got?
well, I'd like to see us go ahead and pass a resolution that removes the evacuation of visitors effective today.
Okay.
And make arrangements to have sign removed, talk later about replacing of us with something else,
Okay.
reminder.
I'm not sure we'll be able to replace it with anything else, because we're using the state's signs, and they agreed to let us use those as frames for our emergency situation. But, I don't know if they will let us do any other kind of, messaging over those.
I was picturing our own Cannon Beach sign, the one that seems that nobody ever sees
Right,
at the entrance of town.
yeah,
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
okay, yeah. I've forgotten that actually we were covering up somebody else's sign.
Anybody have any concern about what Mike's saying?
And then we could go ahead and modify, I don't, if there's any consensus on, the 25th.
Eight, was that what we said?
10 days from today is what one
Yeah.
person said.
Yeah,
When is,
10 days.
That would be the 25th. So I would define that as opening on 8 AM the 26th.
That's what we should say then.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that the Saturday?
That,
No, that's a Tuesday.
Okay, okay,
It's the Tuesday after.
okay, okay. Trying to get my days straight.
Ashley, how does that sound to you? As
That
far as
works.
putting the resolution,
So what I would need is a vote from the council, and you can just generally action when, the hotels would
I
be
didn't-
delivered. What was that?
You're breaking up, Ashley.
hello?
No?
Now you're breaking up really bad.
We can't hear anything you're saying, Ashley. I don't think there is.
Well, if you put the mic up there though, it's probably gonna cause interference.
No, well, I mean, just however loud we can get it.
How about now?
Sorry,
Yeah, that's better.
okay, try that.
Okay. So what I would need is a vote to amend the resolution to rescind the restrictions on hotels on a date certain. And then you guys can vote on that amendment, and if it passes, then vote on the resolution as amended. And I would if that passes, I would redraft the resolution and email it to Colleen for your signature.
Okay. I need someone to make a motion to amend the resolution. Rick?
Could you put the stop down on the door so it's not locked?
Try?
Might try.
Yeah, give it a try.
Move to amend resolution number 20-20 to remove the restrictions on hotels, including short-term rentals, pursuant to resolution 20-11 and 20-12, which are still in effect, to be removed effective Tuesday, May 26th at 6 a.m.
That works.
A second?
Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Colleen?
Counselor Risley?
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy?
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy? Yes. Council President Benefield?
Yes?
Mayor Stidle?
Yes. Now we need a motion to approve the resolution, which has the effect of lifting the visitor ban and the amended hotel.
So before that's done, Sam, I guess I'll just ask Ashley, so which resolutions then are we changing?
So you're going to be lifting both protective measures that you established in Resolution 2011. Then obviously we've had a lot of resolutions since then. Under Resolution 2012, we reaffirmed them under the city's code. Once we adopted that new city code language. And then I think we have 4 or 5 resolutions where we extended them. So all of those essentially would be rescinded. The only thing still standing would be the emergency declaration resolution. So you guys are still operating under a state of emergency. You've just lifted your protective measures.
Right.
And then I have one comment, just because there is going to be some cleanup in this resolution. So when you vote to approve this resolution, can you also just vote to allow me to affect the changes? So I can change the title of the resolution and that sort of thing, and update the resolution references throughout the document.
Okay, in the same motion?
Yeah, just move to approve resolution 2020 as amended and to allow the city attorney to effect the amendments.
So moved.
I will definitely second that, man. Well crafted.
Do you have that, Colleen?
So McCarthy or who?
McCarthy, motioned to so move, which was to approve Resolution 2020 and affect changes by the city council, councilor.
And allow the city attorney to effect the amended changes.
Correct, thank you.
Does that sound good, Ashley?
Sounds perfect, thank you.
Okay.
It was her idea.
Yeah. She agrees with herself 100%.
Any discussion on that?
I give myself a pat on the back.
And so that will take effect immediately?
The
Yeah.
resolution will take effect immediately, and the evacuation of visitor rescission or rescinding that measure will take effect immediately, and the hotel change will take effect Tuesday, May 26th.
Okay, great.
Okay. Colleen?
Okay. Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Mayor Stiles.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting.
Sam, before you, we will get the signs down as quickly as we can.
Okay.
And one, or
To the order?
order, Robin and I will have our, coffee with the counselors via Zoom on Monday, this next Monday at 10 a.m. So anybody who wants to call in,
Okay.
feel free to take a look at the city's website. It's on the website. The link is on the website for Zoom.
And Rick's gonna be with us.
So, not to, since we can't participate, can, other counselors listen?
Sure.
Well, I don't know, Ashley?
Ashley, can we listen if we don't involve ourselves?
Yeah, just make sure that you're not, involved in the conversation at all.
Okay. Rusty will mute everybody
But they
except.
could listen, Ashley?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can certainly attend meetings. I think the danger is you're gonna want to participate.
Right. Well,
Exactly.
I'm going to avoid that by not even listening.
I mean, this would be the, yeah.
I probably won't listen, so I'm just curious.
One last thing. Ashley,
Yeah?
if you send, the modified resolution to Jen, she can print it and then we can get it signed.
Will do.
Do you have the printer? I'm sorry, I was thinking you were gonna be here for the next meeting, but, yeah, no, you can send it to Colleen, and then we'll get it
Okay.
printed and we can have it signed.
Okay, we're gonna shift to the budget meeting. Give a few minutes. Please remember, we can only have 25 people in the room at one time. Almost at the limit there.
I think we'll go down.
Yeah, we'll go down, but,
Did we agree with kind of, a special meeting today?
it sounded like they'll have a meeting on Monday, but we didn't set that
Agree to it.
yet.
Okay,
Well, we can talk about it under good of the order for this meeting.
Okay.
okay.
Great, so I have to-
Yeah.
Thank you.